There will never be another Lou Gehrig. Not because there won't be power hitters again, or captains with quiet gravity, or men strong enough to carry a city on their shoulders. There won't be another because Gehrig fused durability, production, and grace under the cruelest pressure in a way no one has replicated since. The Iron Horse did not just play every day, he made every day feel inevitable. The next big hit already written, the next record already surrendered. And when the end came swiftly and mercilessly, he stood before the world and called himself lucky, turning heartbreak into a kind of light that still finds people in their hardest hours. That is why his story refuses to dim. The numbers astonish, the streak endures, and the farewell still moves the soul. He was born Henry Louis Gehrig in New York City on June 19, 1903, the only surviving child of German immigrants, and he grew from the sidewalks of Manhattan to Columbia University's campus, where his prodigious bat and arm caught the attention of the Yankees. On April 29, 1923, he signed with the club that would define his life, starting a 17-season career exclusively in pinstripes that ran from 1923 to 1923, 1939, and redefined what a first baseman could be. A middle-of-the-order engine with the stamina of a long-distance runner and the humility of a quiet farmer doing necessary work without complaint. By 1925, when he replaced Wally Pipp at first base, Gehrig had initiated one of sport's most indestructible myths. He took the bag and simply never let go. From June 1, 1925, he appeared in 2,130 consecutive games, a record that stood for 56 years and became a parable of resilience. It would take another Iron Man, Cal Ripken Jr., to pass it in 1995. And even Ripken paid homage to what that number meant beyond arithmetic: a life lived inside the grind, a promise kept to teammates and fans every afternoon and evening. The streak was the spine of a career that shimmered with achievements. Gehrig won 2 American League MVP awards, claimed a Triple Crown in 1934, and piled up offensive numbers that still command awe. He finished with a .340 batting average, a .447 on-base percentage, and a .632 slugging percentage, a slash line that places him among the game's elite. He hit 493 home runs and drove in 1,995 runs, production so relentless that he still ranks among the top handful of run producers in baseball history. He was also one of the rare men to hit 4 home runs in a single game, a feat that underlines how his power could turn any ballpark into a rumor mill by sundown. For years, he held the record for most career grand slams with 23, a benchmark that testified not just to power but to timing. He did his greatest damage when the most was at stake. Yankees dynasties rose and rose again around him. Across his 17 seasons, New York won 7 pennants and 6 World Series, and in the October Cauldron, Gehrig was even better. A .361 World Series average with 10 home runs and 35 RBIs, numbers that read like hot streaks, except they were simply his October baseline. He debuted alongside Babe Ruth's thunder, then bridged the transition to Joe DiMaggio's elegance, performing not as an echo to either but as a pillar between them. If Ruth was spectacle and DiMaggio was grace, Gehrig was certainty. The run batted in on a windy day, the double lash to left center, the unwavering presence that made a 154-game season feel shorter because half its variables were already decided by number 4's steadiness. Durability was his aura, but it never overshadowed his discipline. He rarely struck out for a slugger, worked counts with unshowy intelligence, and hit the ball to all fields with disciplined violence. He earned 7 straight All-Star selections, once the midseason classic began in the 1930s, and his peers acknowledged what the public already knew. The first baseman who never sat down was also the hitter you didn't want to face in the 8th. He won the 1934 Triple Crown by leading the league in batting average, home runs, and RBIs, an accomplishment that compresses power and precision into a single sentence. And yet that season wasn't an outlier so much as the fullest expression of who he was most years anyway. And then everything changed. In the spring of 1939, coaches and teammates began to notice disquieting signs. Grounders he once devoured now handcuffed him. Fastballs he once punished now snuck past. Stumbles in the dugout and slips on simple movements that had never troubled him. On May 2nd, 1939, after 2,130 games, Lou Gehrig removed himself from the lineup voluntarily, a decision that stunned teammates and fans because it contradicted the very premise of his professional life, that he would always be there. The ailment had no name yet in his world, only symptoms that multiplied. His wife Eleanor called the Mayo Clinic. Gehrig flew to Rochester, Minnesota, arriving on June 13th. After 6 days of exhaustive tests, he received the diagnosis on June 19th, his 36th birthday, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a progressive neurodegenerative disease. The prognosis was cruel: increasing paralysis, difficulty speaking and swallowing, intact mind watching the body fail, life expectancy measured in a handful of years. The thing that had defined him, his control, his reliability, would be taken piece by piece. 2 weeks later, on July 4th, 1939, the Yankees staged Lou Gehrig Appreciation Day at Yankee Stadium. In a ceremony between games of a doubleheader, dignitaries and legends came forward. The crowd roared, and then Gehrig stepped to the microphone. He had not planned to speak, but a chant grew until he could not ignore it. What happened next is sports' Gettysburg Address: brief, plain-spoken, unforgettable. Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth, he said, framing gratitude as defiance, turning the spotlight away from his suffering and back toward the teammates, coaches, and family who had made his life feel full. In those few minutes, he redefined courage for a nation still clawing out of the depression and staring toward war. The moment has never dissipated. It is still quoted in full or in fragments whenever someone wants to point to dignity under pressure and mean it. Baseball responded with honors commensurate to the man. In 1939, he was elected to the Hall of Fame in a special election, a recognition not just of the career that had ended, but of a legacy already complete. The Yankees retired his number 4, the first time a major league team retired a uniform number for a player. A monument in his honor was placed in Yankee Stadium, and over time, his name became entwined with the disease that ended his life. ALS is still often called Lou Gehrig's disease in the United States, an eponym that ensures his courage accompanies every conversation about the condition and the search for a cure. He died on June 2nd, 1941, less than 2 years after the day he stood before a stadium and made sorrow sound like gratitude. He was 37. The brevity of the postscript only sharpened the outline of the life, the records and rings, the consecutive games that made even his silence momentous, the farewell that refused self-pity. In 1969, the Baseball Writers Association of America named him the greatest first baseman of all time. In 1999, fans voted him onto the All-Century team. Awards now carry his name, and awareness days each year fuse baseball's calendar to the ongoing effort to understand and defeat the disease that took him. What remains towering is the totality. Consider the combination: 2 MVPs, a Triple Crown, 6 World Series titles as a player, 7 pennants, postseason brilliance that actually exceeded regular season excellence, and a 2,130-game streak that set a standard for showing up that transcended the field. He led the league in RBIs 5 times and runs 4 times, finished with more career RBIs than many Hall of Fame sluggers who played longer, and hit those 23 grand slams that stood atop the record book for decades before being surpassed. Even his 4-homer game in 1932, a rare and almost mythic feat, tends to get overshadowed by everything else, an index of how much else there was to overshadow it. Teammates and opponents described him as modest to a fault, serious about work, but generous with time, a star who did not perform stardom. In a clubhouse that included Babe Ruth's unruly charisma and later Joe DiMaggio's polished reserve, Gehrig threaded a middle path, available, steady, unfazed. It fit his playing style: crush the ball, tag the bag, Do it again tomorrow. There was nothing performative about it until performance itself became the show. Hitting fourth every day for a decade and a half, battering pitchers who thought they had figured him out, wearing the bruises and fatigue of the catchers opposite, with the stoicism of a long haul captain, steering through another storm and making landfall on schedule. To ask why there will never be another Lou Gehrig is to hold up a prism and watch multiple truths refract. The game has changed. Sports science, rest patterns, bullpen specialization, and travel have all altered how durability looks. The culture has changed. Media exposure and marketing inflate profiles differently. But the core of it is simpler. No one has welded availability at that scale to excellence at that level, then capped it with a farewell that taught the country how to stand up straight in the face of something that cannot be beaten. Others will be great. Others will be durable. Others will deliver speeches that move people. The exact alloy of daily commitment, sustained production, and that singular goodbye belongs to Gehrig alone. It starts with a boy in New York and ends with a man in the Bronx, bowing his head as 62,000 fall silent, then roar, then fall silent again. Between those moments stretched doubles to the gap, and nights under lights, and the soft handshake of a first baseman greeting base runners he just punished, and also the quiet hours when he felt his strength ebb and did not announce it. Baseball tends to remember the spectacular, the 500-foot homer, the diving catch, the no-hitter. Lou Gehrig taught baseball to remember the everyday miracle. Be there, be great, be grateful. That is why there will never be another, and why the Iron Horse still rides beside anyone who needs to hear those impossible words and believe them. The luckiest man on the face of the earth.